The elevator camera is fixed high in the corner. The frame does not move. The image is slightly wide, slightly distorted. A person enters alone. The doors do not close. Several buttons are pressed in quick sequence. Not one, not two. The person steps forward, then stops. She leans into the open hallway, then withdraws again, staying close to the threshold. The doors remain open longer than expected. She steps out, then back in. Her hands move near the door, close to the edge of the frame. They do not touch the control panel. There is no sound. There is no visible interaction with another person. Only the timestamp remains constant, marking the passage of seconds. After she leaves the frame, the elevator doors close. The camera does not show where she goes. It does not show what enters the space after her. Elisa Lam was 21 years old. She was from Vancouver, in British Columbia, Canada. In January 2013, she traveled alone to California. Her trip included several cities. She posted about travel and daily observations online, including on Tumblr. By the end of January, she was in downtown Los Angeles. She was staying at the Cecil Hotel, which later operated under the name Stay on Main. The case becomes widely known for its imagery. It also becomes known for the unusual location where she was eventually found. At the same time, it follows a familiar pattern. A missing person case begins in an ordinary way. A person stops making contact. A timeline narrows. Records are checked. Small pieces of documentation begin to carry unusual weight. The first primary element is the timeline of her last confirmed day. What is known is limited, but a few points are clear. Elisa Lam was last seen alive at the hotel on January 31st, 2013. This date is consistent across police statements and later reporting. After that night, there is no confirmed public record of her leaving the building. There is also no confirmed record of her meeting anyone inside it. How this was examined began with basic verification. Investigators reviewed hotel records. They reviewed surveillance footage. They also relied on the point at which her family noticed that contact had stopped. According to reported accounts, her parents filed a missing person report after she failed to check in as expected. Comparisons were made to routine travel behavior. A solo traveler who checks in regularly, then goes silent. A hotel guest seen on camera, then not seen again. These comparisons do not resolve anything. They narrow the frame. The explanations considered at this stage were standard. A voluntary departure, a change of plans, an accident, a medical crisis, the involvement of another person. What was ruled out early was certainty itself. There was no confirmed sighting after January 31st. There was no confirmed departure with luggage. There was no later phone call that could be publicly documented. The uncertainty remained basic, but central. Her last day could be traced to the hotel. The following day could not. The second primary element is the elevator footage. What is known is that it comes from a security camera inside the hotel. The footage shows Lam entering the elevator. It shows her pressing multiple buttons. It shows her waiting, looking out, stepping out, and returning. The elevator doors remain open for an extended period while she is present. After she leaves, the elevator later appears to function normally. How it was examined began with police review. The clip was treated as the last known sighting. On February 13th, 2013, the Los Angeles Police Department released the video publicly. The stated purpose was to generate leads. That release marks a documented shift. The case moves from a missing person investigation into a public object of analysis. Comparisons were made almost immediately. Investigators compared the clip to other surveillance footage, looking for continuity. The public compared it to familiar categories of behavior: fear, play, confusion, pursuit. The footage invites these labels because it shows movement without context. The explanations considered divide along similar lines. One explanation is mechanical. Another is situational. Another is medical. The mechanical explanation focuses on the door behavior and the button presses. The situational explanation focuses on the pauses, the hallway, and the hand movements. The medical explanation focuses on disorganized action without a visible external trigger. What the footage rules out is limited. It does not show a second person inside the elevator. It does not show a physical struggle. It does not show her being forced out of frame. The uncertainty is larger than what is excluded. The camera does not show the hallway. It does not show where she goes after stepping out. It does not show activity on any floor beyond the elevator interior. It does not explain why the doors remain open while she is present. The third primary element is her status as a guest in the hotel. What is known is that she was staying at the Cecil. She initially shared a room. Reported accounts state that her behavior led to complaints from roommates. She was moved to a different room. That room was described as a single. This is one of the few documented indications that others noticed a change in her behavior. How this was examined is indirect. Hotel staff statements become part of the record. Room assignments become part of the timeline. The move itself becomes a marker. It indicates contact. It indicates interaction. It also shows how the situation was interpreted at the time. The hotel treated it as a management issue, not as an emergency. Comparisons were made to ordinary hotel incidents. Guests argue. Guests behave oddly. Guests disturb roommates. Most of those situations end with a room change, not a police report. This detail gains meaning only in retrospect. Explanations considered include temporary distress, travel fatigue, an emerging mental health episode. Another explanation, raised later, is conflict with another person in the hotel. There's no public documentation confirming that. What can be ruled out remains limited. A room change does not prove danger. It does not prove targeting. It confirms that something was noticed. The uncertainty lies in the missing detail. The record does not fully describe what was said, or what was observed, or how severe the disturbance was. It provides a fact, not a full picture. The fourth primary element is the search. What is known is that police searched the hotel. They reviewed surveillance material. They used dogs. They checked accessible areas of the building. Later reporting indicates that this included parts of the roof. Despite these efforts, she was not found during the initial search period. How this was examined is visible through method. A missing person in a single building narrows the search area. Rooms are checked, hallways, stairwells, common spaces. Scent dogs are used when a starting point exists. These steps are standard. Their effectiveness depends on timing and on access. Comparisons were made later, after her body was found. What had been searched, what had not. Those comparisons became central. Her eventual location was inside the same building, above it, connected to its infrastructure. A person can be missing inside a space that is actively searched. That fact does not require interpretation. Explanations considered include oversight, limited access, and the possibility that certain areas were not considered relevant at the time. What was ruled out was the idea of a complete search. The search occurred. It did not conclude the matter. The uncertainty remained in the gap between effort and outcome. She was missing. The building was searched. She was still not found. The fifth primary element begins with a complaint. Guests reported problems with the water. There were descriptions of low pressure, unusual conditions, flooding in parts of the building. A maintenance worker went to the roof to check the water system. On February 19, 2013, Elisa Lam's body was found in a rooftop water tank. At that point, the investigation changed. The focus shifted from missing person to death investigation. The coroner became involved. Access points to the roof and tanks were examined. Public health actions followed. The tanks served the building's water supply. Comparisons were made to other cases involving unusual discovery sites. This location remains unusual, even within that category. The water system is functional, not hidden. The roof sits above occupied space, but remains physically connected to it. Explanations considered immediately included foul play and accident. Early reporting described the case as suspicious pending coroner findings. This is procedural language, not emotional. A body in a water tank requires explanation. What was ruled out at the scene could not be final. The discovery did not prove homicide. It did not prove accident. Uncertainty was built into the location itself. Access to the roof, entry into the tank, inability to exit. Each step requires documentation, not assumption. The sixth primary element is the coroner's examination. What is known is that her death was ruled an accidental drowning. Her bipolar disorder was noted as a significant condition. Later reporting emphasized the absence of trauma consistent with assault. Toxicology findings did not support early theories involving external intoxicants. How this was examined involved autopsy and laboratory testing, physical examination, toxicology analysis. These processes move slowly. They produce classifications, not narratives. They show injury or its absence. They show substances or their absence. They do not reconstruct a person's movement through space. Comparisons were made between these findings and the public interpretation of the elevator footage. The footage suggested danger. The autopsy did not confirm an attack. This contrast did not resolve the case. It narrowed the explanation. Authorities focused on accident associated with mental health crisis. This is where the official explanation becomes clear, later than many expect. Accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder as a significant factor. That becomes the formal frame. What was ruled out was a clear claim of homicide supported by injury. Not every possibility. A specific category of evidence. The uncertainty remained in the mechanism. The cause of death explains what happened in the water. It does not fully explain how she entered the tank. Only at this point does the official explanation move to the foreground. It unfolds as a sequence. Investigators concluded she accessed the roof. They concluded she entered the tank. They concluded she drowned. They concluded her bipolar disorder played a significant role. This explanation rests on the coroner's findings and on the absence of physical trauma. It also rests on documented medical history. Later coverage reinforces the interpretation of a mental health episode. Even so, the case does not simplify. The explanation has limits. Those limits remain part of the record. The seventh primary element is what remains unresolved. Her body was not found during the initial search. The roof and water system were not the first places investigators focused. The elevator footage was released days after she went missing. The video itself became a subject of debate, including what it showed and what it did not. Official examination focused on structure and access. Public examination focused on timing and interpretation. These are different processes. They do not always align. Comparisons continued. A person on a roof, a person in an elevator, unusual behavior, an accidental death, a search, a discovery prompted by water complaints. Each comparison reshapes the same facts. Explanations narrowed over time, but did not converge into a complete reconstruction. The physical route is not recorded in full. There is no continuous footage from elevator to roof. There is no documented moment of entry into the tank on camera. The uncertainty remains where documentation ends. The official explanation addresses the outcome, not every step leading to it. The final images associated with Elisa Lam are not of the roof, not of the water system, not of a hallway. They are of an elevator interior, evenly lit, recorded without sound, holding a person in frame, moving without explanation. The case has an official conclusion. It also has a remainder, a short recording without context, a search that missed what was present, a discovery made through maintenance, not investigation, a cause of death that explains the end, not the full path. That is where the public record stops, not with resolution, with documentation that does not extend far enough to show the entire sequence.